Welcome to BizVote 2021, the Brampton Board of Trade's debates for the upcoming federal election. Ladies and gentlemen, we know how busy you are in your job, and we want to save you time, but also we want you to make informed choices for the upcoming election. What we've done on your behalf is invited 4 parties that are currently in the House of Commons in all 5 ridings in Brampton to debate the business issues. Those issues could be everything from exiting the pandemic to transit, transportation, childcare, environment. We've assembled a group of business leaders to ask the important questions so that you can see and hear the responses from candidates running in this election. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being part of the Brampton Board of Trade. We're here to advocate on your behalf, to bring you programs like this, to connect you with suppliers and customers, and to encourage you and your people to be the best they can be. Together, we are stronger. Ladies and gentlemen, to learn more about the Brampton Board of Trade, please visit bramptonbot.com. Enjoy the debates. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Todd Letts. I'm CEO of the Brampton Board of Trade, and I'm delighted to welcome you to BizVote 2021, the riding debates for the upcoming 2021 federal election. Today, we are hosting candidates from all 5 ridings in Brampton and welcome you to this debate, the debate for Brampton North. In the tradition of hosting organized, informative, and impactful debates, today's discussion will be focused on key business issues that are important to you, Brampton Board of Trade members. With over 2,000 voting members that employ more than 60,000 in Brampton, the Brampton Board of Trade takes great care of our business community in connecting them, in encouraging them, and advocating on their behalf, highlighting issues that impact your business success and local growth and prosperity. Today's debates will focus on specific questions that have been identified by business leaders and will also provide an opportunity for some pre-recorded questions from our business community and viewers today to learn more and to make more informed decisions about the upcoming election on September 20th, 2021. Without any further ado, I'm happy to introduce a member of the business panel that will be posing questions to today. And allow me, please, to introduce Glenn Williams, who is the past chair of the Brampton Board of Trade and a member of our Policy and Government Relations Committee. I, too, will be posing questions to the candidates today, and invitations were extended to nominated candidates from parties that are currently represented in the House of Commons. Today, we are joined by Ruby Sahota, representing the Liberal Party of Canada. Invitations were extended to nominated candidates from parties, as I say, that were currently represented in the House of Commons. But unfortunately, the Conservative candidate, Mehta Joshi, declined our invitation to participate. And NDP candidate, Theresa Yeh, did not respond to several attempts to contact her by email and over social media. We would have been happy to invite the Green Party, but unfortunately they were unable to field a candidate in Brampton North. So today we are fortunate to be joined by Ruby Sahota of the Liberal Party of Canada, and we will be posing a set of questions to her, Glenn and I, and also pre-recorded ones from members of our business community. And we very much appreciate Ms. Sahota. Welcome. We're so happy that you're here today. We will follow a similar format that we've had, but we'll make some modifications given that you are the only candidate to attend today's debate. You will have an opportunity for an introductory remark and also a closing remark. And Glenn and I and the recorded questions will take the interim. So without further ado, I ask Ruby Sahota. I welcome Ruby Sahota. Welcome, Ruby. And I ask that you start with your introductory remarks.
Well, thank you, Todd and Glenn. Good morning to you and to all of your viewers today, all the members of the Brampton Board of Trade. It's always a pleasure to attend one of your events. I guess this debate is a little bit unconventional today, but it's still a pleasure to be here and discuss the issues that matter to the business community and to Bramptonians in general. One thing I can say about myself is that I have been serving, as you know, for almost 6 years now. We're getting to that point. And I would say it's been 1.5 terms or so. So in those 6 years, we are having our third debate here with the Brampton Board of Trade. And as I think many Bramptonians have gotten to know, I've never been hesitant to connect with people, to take meetings, to go onto the radio, television, and debate the important issues. So I'm here today. One of my top priorities as a member of Parliament representing Brampton North has always been to be accessible, to be approachable, and that is something I look forward to continuing. And of course, perhaps, you know, through the experience I've gained, doing an even better job, making sure that some of the mistakes that I've made along the way or the things that I've learned from my experience can make me an even better representative. I think working with our local municipality, the city of Brampton, the region, and of course the province is very important in order to deliver on key promises that the government is making at the federal level. I know we won't have a whole lot of time today, but you can find our whole platform on liberal.ca. So I encourage all of your members to take a look at liberal.ca. You can go through the platform. You don't have to go through it page by page. You can enter a search word to the issues that are important to you and quickly look those up. It's very thorough. It's very comprehensive. It's the only costed platform. Well, I think the conservative one, as I'm hearing as of yesterday, may be somewhat costed as well. But up until then, it was the only costed platform. I think it still is the only fully costed platform. And that's really important. I know your members are numbers people, and numbers are important. What our plans are going to achieve or what our projections are very important. All the investments we're looking to make are ones that are going to give us output for our GDP and growth for our economy. So thank you for this opportunity, Todd.
Well, thank you very much for those introductory comments. And you mentioned the party's platform that I think was released not too long ago. If you could point to one specific promise in the party's platform that will make Canada and Brampton in particular a more attractive target for companies, a more attractive location for companies deciding where to invest, what would that specific promise in your party's platform be?
Well, I think for companies, but also for individuals looking to settle here. I know that your businesses, and you've often brought this point up to me, are looking for people with, you know, high skills. They're looking for a workforce that is educated, that can, you know, increase their bottom line. And I think the Childcare program is one that is going to do just that. It's going to not just only make sure that our young people have a good start in life, and of course it is going to do that. In fact, studies have shown that an early start with early childhood education is important to building strong, smart children. But not only that, you know, we'll be growing daycare spaces. That is more jobs, more job creation through the infrastructure building that will take place. And of course, more ECE educators that need to be hired in order to get to the promise that we have of $10 a day childcare in the next few years. 8 provinces have already signed on to this agreement. I'm looking forward to Ontario also coming to the table and signing on. We know Bramptonians pay upwards to $1,200 a year per child for childcare. That's unaffordable. We've got a workforce that is underutilized because they are well educated. We know Bramptonians are some of the most highly educated people in Canada, and they're staying at home because it just doesn't make sense for their dollars and cents to be putting their child in childcare at this point. According to the plan, we could free up 250,000 people people to get back into the workforce through this plan. It could add $1.2 billion to our GDP, or growth by 1.2% to our GDP. That is going to make sure that we have a strong economy for years to come. And I think, companies will also will have more productivity from their employees when they know that their children are well taken care of. We've seen through the pandemic, companies for the first time have said, boy, we really want that childcare program because our employees are really struggling and there is a loss of productivity. So I would say that overall, a program like this, a national program, would really do wonders for our economy and for the well-being of our people.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Hoda, and you are correct. Childcare is an important issue for the business community. Many of our Brampton businesses are reporting difficulty in recruiting new staff, and anything that we can do to ensure that parents have the childcare they need so that they can participate fully in the workforce is certainly an issue of concern for the business community. Our next question is a pre-recorded question. It's from one of our local manufacturers. There has been a lot of expenditures with respect to COVID certainly, the pandemic, an emergency situation. This question is posed by Sanda Josevic, who is the Sales and Marketing Manager from Plant Prod. Terry, can you roll the tape, please?
Sanda Vashic, Master Plan Prod. Well, COVID-19 was hopefully a once-in-100 years type of event. What lessons do you think we have learned? And if you're elected to Parliament, how will you push Canada to be better prepared for the next catastrophic event?
One of the things we've definitely learned is the lack of manufacturing capacity that we had within our borders is something that we need to learn from and need to move forward from. It has been years since pharmaceutical manufacturing of vaccines had left our shores, but we need to make sure that the things that we need to rely on, although we are a trading country and we're not going to move away from trying to build upon our trade relationships with other countries, it's also important to make sure that we have the resources that are needed within our own borders as well, especially for things as important as food and pharmaceuticals. So we've invested right here in Peel. Over $200 million has been invested into a Mississauga company so that they can manufacture booster shots and vaccines right here in our region. I think that is an important investment. We're going to continue to make sure we can scale up our manufacturing when it comes to electric vehicles, when it comes to battery power, when it comes to uranium, and so much more. So I think manufacturing, I know, is important to our region, and making sure that our development agencies are well funded to be able to support our companies in the area, along with trade, logistics that we saw having such a huge difficulty in this time. We've put $1.9 billion on the table to make sure that our logistic companies can access funds to make that a little bit easier and smoother, so we have a strong supply chain going forward. So I think these are some things that not only that did we learn from the pandemic, and there's so much more, but I know there's only so much time, so I wanted to hit on the points that I think are important to your business community and ones that are important to Brampton.
Well, thank you very much for that thoughtful response. Our next question is from Mr. Glenn Williams, a member of our Policy and Governance Committee and former chair of the Brampton Board of Trade. Glenn, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute, sir.
That always happens every Zoom meeting without a fail.
All right, thank you, Todd. So my question is to Mr. Hodo. What is the one specific change that, if elected, you will support to better tailor our immigration programs to help businesses fill gaps in their labor needs and the workforce?
Now, This is a really great question, Glenn. One thing that I've noticed, and I've had conversations with Todd and so many people in the business community, is that we need perhaps more avenues for investors to make it easier for those that are willing to open up shop here in Brampton and in other places around the country, and also making sure that we're matching skills to the needs that we have in the workforce here, the gaps that we have, I should say. I would really get behind and support developing some policies in the coming years that do better at connecting those dots. There is a disconnect from what I've seen between the federal level and the provincial level. There are some programs that we've already started that have been really successful, pilot programs in rural areas in Atlantic Canada to really drive development in those regions and drive some population growth. So I think, continuing programs like that where local areas are more in control of their immigration is very important.
Thank you, Ms. Sahota. Our next question is pre-recorded from a member of our Board of Trade. It is from Dwayne Peel, who is founder of Canadian Small Business Women. Terry, can you roll the question, please?
Hi, I'm Dwayne Peel from Canadian Small Business Women. Thank you for taking my question. Now, I understand that supply chain has been protected throughout the pandemic, and there's no question that COVID-related restrictions have impacted trade. How can we get people moving and doing business again, including domestic and international air travel, in a way that is safe and mindful of this threat that we have of a fourth wave?
Well, we have during this recovery helped our airports as well. That's first and foremost. We need to make sure that we have thriving hubs across our country, which are the airports, as well as, like I just mentioned, our National Trade Corridor Fund to help support the supply chain management system. And transit, and local transit is important as well, and supporting our trucking industry as well. And so all of that will be done through our infrastructure programs that we have. We have dedicated more funding than any government here to transit in Brampton alone. We've electrified our fleet. In terms of international travel, which I know is one part of the main question there, we have just opened our borders just a few days ago. I think it was just yesterday, actually, to international travel once again. There have been processes put in place, and the federal government has been there every step of the way to provide support for safety measures, just like school. I just sent my son off to school this morning, his first day back. And, a lot of the local Peel Region schools here have received funding from the federal government to make sure they have ventilation, to make sure they have the PPE that is needed in their schools. We are not responsible for education and for the school system, but we've stepped in. 80% of all money that has been spent during this pandemic has been spent by the federal government. And not because it was hasty spending, but because it was needed and because we needed to support our industries and our people. And so we're going to continue to do that to make sure things get back on track so that we can make sure our supply chain management is not disrupted any further. And I know there's some difficulty still with the fourth wave. Vaccines are an important part of the solution. We are a government that strongly believes in science and has been advocating for the use of vaccines, has been putting in place measures like you've seen for federal workers, for travel between provinces, air, land, and sea, and of course international travel as well. And I think that is going to be the solution as long as we get over that hump. And I've been noticing there's been a lineup at the soccer center lately, and there was a lack of lineup just a week ago. All of a sudden, people are starting to line up again. So I think putting in these measures are really going to get us to that point where businesses can thrive and they no longer have to worry about closures.
Thank you. Thank you for that thoughtful response. Glenn, I'm going to come to you next, but I'm going to first ask a question about something that Ms. Sahota mentioned in one of her earlier responses, and that's with respect to affordability. The real issues that Bramptonians are experiencing now as we exit the pandemic. We know that businesses and families in Brampton are really feeling the pinch of the past year and a half's challenges, whether it's in household goods like grocery costs, their grocery bill, business supplies like gasoline prices or raw materials. It seems that the price of everything is going up, and that's having a ripple effect on company bottom lines, family monthly budgets. How serious of a challenge do you see affordability, inflation, and what measures are your party planning to take to counter it?
There are many measures throughout the platform and many different sections that tackle affordability on different fronts. I know as I'm hitting the doors, it is one of the top things that people have on their mind. And I do think it is a serious problem. Some of it, I think, will get solved after the pandemic, after we get through that point. Therefore, that's why continuing to push vaccines is really important. We're seeing lumber prices go up, but we're also seeing them come back down a little bit recently. And so that, you have to keep in mind that our supply chain has been disrupted to some degree, and as a result, prices do go up for commodities. So getting through the pandemic as quickly as we can is key. Making sure we help other countries around the world as well come along. That is also key, because we need to continue trading. We need to open our borders, and keeping them closed forever is just not an option. And it won't help when it comes to the price of goods. But one of the key things in our platform that I think is a really hot issue, especially in Brampton, is housing affordability. We have done a lot when it comes to affordable housing, which are subsidized units. There was a big announcement just the other day at the Mount Pleasant affordable housing units. We've invested there. We have a national housing strategy to reduce homelessness by 50%. And we're on that path, but there's more to do when it comes to the average middle class family being able to also afford a home. So we're going to increase supply. Supply is one of those things that keep the prices up. Demand and supply. Demand is going through the roof right now, because I think there's a lot of fear in the market that if they don't get in now, they'll never be able to get in, right? So we need to ease that fear a little bit, make sure we've got a very comprehensive plan, and we do in this platform. We have the most comprehensive plan tackling this issue from all aspects compared to all of the parties. We're tackling supply by the 1.4 million new homes and refurbished homes in the next 4 years. We're tackling the demand issue and helping young people buy by also setting up a tax-free savings account where you can save for your down payment and get generous tax return, which you could reinvest right into that tax-free savings account. We're also tackling the speculation in the market by banning foreign buyers, by also taxing those that are using homes as a commodity and flipping them within 12 months. And on top of that, we're creating a new financial crimes agency so that we don't have people treating, practicing unfair market, practices in this sector and others as well. We know that the RCMP and our other forces are worked and have a lot on their plate. So this new agency will be dedicated to just tackling these problems such as money laundering and also mortgage fraud and all of those things that are really causing, all of our prices to go up in all areas. So I encourage you once again to take a closer look, because there are more aspects than what I've just been able to cover. Land use is one of them. We want builders to free up land, and we're going to support our municipalities to also be able to do that as well. So there's much, much more. Please go to liberal.ca once again to take a closer look.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive response. Mr. Williams, do you have a question for candidate Sahota of the Liberal Party of Canada?
Well, I'd like to follow up on the supply of housing. And so we know that it's a provincial and municipal responsibility to a large extent, not federal. And we've heard from the various parties, including the Liberals, about the number of new houses that they're going to provide. But my question is really getting down into the details. I'm a details person. Specifically, what can the federal government do to increase supply? So what programs or what incentives can you do to assist the municipalities in the province to get the red tape out of the way and get houses actually built, not just on paper, but real life in the ground?
Well, one thing I just mentioned at the end there is that we have a lot of land that is being occupied and used or unused due to people wanting to wait or due to the cost of goods. So there's definitely a lot the federal government can do to assist builders to get building. It could be done in both ways. The stick and the incentive method can be used in order to make sure that this land is being used. Otherwise, it needs to be sold within a certain period of time. So we're going to help put in policies where the municipal government can take action on that front. As well as something that I didn't mention before is the transparency. Having more transparency in the housing market, I think, will also help with the demand side of things. When people can really see where these bids are coming from, how much is being bidded on a home, I think that's going to be key and very important. I don't think necessarily that will stop a home buyer that needs to purchase a home, that requires a home, but I do think it might balance out some of the out of control demand that there is out there in the market to just continue to buy investment properties. And that's important along with supply. But of course, we're going to have to work with our Ontario counterparts here and with our regional and municipal governments. We've done it before. We've worked with them when it comes to a housing subsidy. 8 provinces, and Ontario is one of them, that has a federal housing subsidy. The region of Peel runs it. We know we had long affordable housing waiting lists. So we decided, okay, we need to make rent more affordable for some people that are on this list. So they are now receiving a subsidy. And the federal government was able to accomplish that by working with the provinces, just like we are going to with daycare as well. So I think it's important that we've also shown that we've got a record of being able to work with the different levels. And so that's going to be key in order to help build this supply. And I'd be happy to come back as well when some more details come out, of course, as to how we can do this. And there's going to be consultations, and the Brampton Board of Trade and your members, I will advocate for them to all be involved before legislation is rolled out on these matters, because we will have broad consultations to make sure we get it right, to make sure we're fine-tuning those details so that we don't have some effects or that we don't basically like at the end of the day.
Thank you very much for the question, Glenn, and for the response, Ms. Zahoda of the Liberal Party of Canada. I have 2 questions now. Both of them focus on the issue of leadership. Here at the Brampton Board of Trade, we're very proud of our long and distinguished track record of representing diverse communities of business people that form our business community. And that includes, of course, many strong women represented on our board of directors, in our committees, and in our membership. Women that have taken strong leadership roles in Brampton over many years. How can the federal government promote diversity and more equal gender representation on boards, agencies, even in the makeup of our political leadership candidates for election? Can you please comment on what can be done about that?
No, so we're trying to lead by example. Of course, here in Brampton, you see that your federal members outnumber our male members here in this city, and hopefully after September 20th, the ratio will still be there. And so example is important. Even at the federal level, we have a gender balanced cabinet, as you know, and we're running more than 158 female candidates in this election. In terms of some accomplishments we've already made in this area, Minister Navdeep Bains, who you're all familiar with as the Minister of Economic Development, has put in place legislation previously that makes the makeup of boards more transparent. We've also put out a call to action to a lot of companies as well. And you can go on canada.ca to see the progress of many national companies as to how many women they have on their boards and the representation they have of different diverse backgrounds. And we've made it so that, companies have to list their diversity. That's important. It's important for the public to know what the makeup of companies is. And I think it also incentivizes companies to make sure they've got that representation. And at the end of the day, we know it's good for everyone's bottom line as well. And that's what companies also care about. So, we're going to continue to work on this front. Of course, there's much more that we can do. And I'd love to hear from your women leaders as well as to what we can do as a government from the federal level to really encourage women to step forward and get involved in trades, in the business realm, and in politics as well.
Thank you very much for that response. And you reference former Minister Bain's challenge, the hashtag 5030 challenge, and you referenced the Brampton Board of Trade. We're proud of the fact that for 4 consecutive years now, we have met that challenge even before the challenge was established. It's just smart business. So thank you for your response. My second part of my question, dealing with leadership, is with respect to your role as MP. Many people feel that the role of a member of parliament has changed in recent years and become primarily focused more on representing the position of the political party as opposed to its constituents. Has there ever been an issue where you disagreed with your party? And under what circumstances would you vote against your party in the House of Commons?
There's absolutely been situations where I've disagreed. You can check out my voting record. I actually might not even be able to recall how many exact times, but I definitely recall standing, and that's a moment, moments you don't forget when you are standing in your place in the House of Commons and voting against the cabinet and the government. So one of the times was when it came to genetic discrimination. So in testing and when it comes to insurance, I think that, the government took a stand based on jurisdiction and constitutional divides. However, I thought, it was the right thing to do because so many Canadians have suffered under the policies, the unfair policies that insurance companies sometimes create in order to discriminate against people. And so when it comes to issues of conscience, I don't hesitate to vote against the government. However, I've also run with a party. So I think it's also fair to expect that I am going to vote with the Liberal government as my constituents would expect, because I'm going door to door telling them on my informational material that this is the stuff that we're going to deliver in our platform. So of course I need to be a part of that team to make sure that we are able to deliver those things and able to serve Canadians better. So I think that's where the distinction is drawn at the end of the day, right? It's drawn where you want to make sure that you're doing the best for your constituents. If it's something I've run on, then you can expect that that is something I will vote in favor for. If it's something else that comes up along the way, an issue that was not a part of our platform, then you can expect for me to vote my conscience on that.
Thank you for that response. Mr. Williams, do you have a question for candidate Ruby Sahota of the Liberal Party of Canada?
Thanks, Todd. So my question relates to COVID-19 and the extraordinary expenditures and direct supports to both individuals and businesses while it was needed. But it has been a strain on the country's finances. Our federal debt now approaches or is more than $1 trillion. How concerned are you about the burden on future generations with the level of debt that we have now?
We were concerned about Canadians today, and of course we continue to be concerned about future generations. That's why our platform is, that's why we're having this election, quite frankly. We need to put forward a vision for tomorrow. a vision that's really going to pivot and make sure that we make the right investments to grow our economy, to grow our GDP, create jobs. And at the end of the day, that will benefit Canadians. That will also narrow the gap that we have from our debt to GDP ratio. So that's going to be our key focus. And that's why I think it was so important for us to put out a new mandate and try, at least in this election, to try to get that majority government so that we can quickly deliver on those things. We've got things such as, removing interest from student loans permanently. That is because we are worried about our future generations and the level of debt that they carry personally. The level of debt that Canadians personally carry is quite high, and that's why you're seeing the policies that we have in place. When it came to pandemic supports, that's one of the main reasons we wanted to make sure that we were there for Canadians, because we didn't want them taking on more and more debt on their credit cards. We wanted to be there so that the debt that we take on at a very low interest rate would serve them much better. And then, along with the affordable housing, all of that I've mentioned before, it's also we can help Canadians make sure we have a brighter future, and our environmental policies, which perhaps we might not be able to completely get to today, those are also important because we care about our future, our children and our grandchildren. And so this government is very focused on looking forward and moving forward.
Thank you, candidate Ruby Sahota of the Liberal Party of Canada. We certainly do appreciate your attendance here today and taking so many questions as the only candidate. We just have a couple of questions to finish off today. We really do appreciate the responses that you have given on issues that are so very important to our business community. Ms. Sahota, another way to address debt is to create more jobs and to create more revenue, to boost the GDP. One way of doing that is through investment in important infrastructure. There is a proposal by the province of Ontario to build the GTA West Corridor Highway, also known as Highway 413. It is currently undergoing provincial environmental assessment. And the federal government recently indicated that it wants to put an additional environmental assessment, a federal environmental assessment on top of the provincial one. From the business community's perspective, we see this as additional bureaucracy in terms of how many environmental assessments and how many governments need to do environmental assessments in order for important infrastructure to be built. It's estimated the highway during its construction would contribute about $350 million to GDP, and once constructed, $1 billion boost to GDP on an annual basis. Can you please comment on why federal intervention is required when an environmental assessment process is already underway?
Yeah, one thing I want to make clear when it comes to that highway is that we didn't ask to be involved in this matter. We didn't go out of our way to have a comment on this highway. However, your city of Brampton did. Your city of Brampton wrote to the federal government in order to be involved in this process, and so did other municipalities. So that is key to know. We are a team player. We're a government that works with our local governments. I think it is, the ball is really in their court when making these types of decisions as to what they want to see in their city plans. And so I think I will, to some degree, leave it at that. There was a unanimous letter, I believe it was unanimous, written by the City Council to the federal government for a further assessment. We do have a system in place. It's an independent system. It will not be a political decision by any means. Environmental groups have also submitted for the government to intervene. So as far as, all of the research that I've done looking into this matter, there are claims that there are going to be species that will go extinct. There are environmental claims basically. And so I guess what needs to be done is to see whether the economic development of this highway would outweigh the environmental concerns. And so since that's been put into our lap, there will be an independent assessment done on that. And I'm really neutral on the issue because I want to see things go forward as long as they're not going to be detrimental at the same time. And I think that's how most Canadians feel. We want to have a good balance when it comes to our economy and our environment.
Thank you very much for that response. Our final question before your closing remarks comes from a Facebook viewer. We did speak earlier about housing. And the question is, we also spoke about diversity and leadership in diversity. This question kind of ties those two topics together. If re-elected, what can be done? What programs or initiatives can be put in place to assist the housing availability and affordability for individuals with disabilities? We understand that this is a unique problem for persons of varying abilities, and that there are long waiting lists for affordable housing as well. Can you comment on what might you do if re-elected?
Yeah, so there is a section in the platform about doing better when it comes to those with disabilities. I know that there's been barriers when it comes to the disability tax credit at times. I think we can do better at making sure that people are assessed in a fair way with less red tape, as has been mentioned before. Many have had to, go first to the provincial government and then to the federal government, having to reprove their disability. We're also going to expand the definition of disability to include more mental health disabilities as well. So this is, one way in which we can give back, put more money back into the pockets of those that are having these challenges. And of course, there is much more to improve these federal programs. We are going to be having a national consultation to make sure that the red tape that I was talking about can be permanently removed so the benefits can flow easier. And I previously did mention we've also created a housing benefit that also particularly deals with housing concerns for those that need it and those that may not make it, on the waiting list for actual housing. They can use that money towards payment of their rent.
Well, thank you very much for that response. At this time, we will conclude our questions and provide the opportunity for candidate Ruby Sahota of the Liberal Party of Canada to provide closing remarks. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'd just like to thank both of you once again for having me on. It's always very important, from your questions, I can always assess what things are important to you, what your key priorities are, and I will keep them top of mind as I continue to campaign. And if elected, I'm always there. I'm just a phone call away, Todd and Glenn, if you want to sit down, have those meetings, talk about the issues that are important to your members. I'm there and I'm willing to listen, but not only listen, I'm willing to obviously advocate on your behalf and make some noise, because I think that's what's always needed from a representative, right? You need to be able to be a strong communicator and one that is effective also up in Ottawa.
Well, thank you very much, candidate Ruby Sahota, representing the Liberal Party of Canada. Wow, for you to take so many questions, both from panelists, pre-recorded, from our Facebook watchers today. We certainly appreciate your courage for coming here today, for your courage in stepping up at putting your name on the ticket to stand as a candidate for this election. And to our viewers and members, please, no matter who you support, ensure that you do get out and vote. Election Day is Monday, September 20th, and advanced polls are available this coming Friday to Monday, September 10th to 13th. Please visit elections.ca to find your polling location. I want to say a special thank you to Sanda of Plant Prod and Dwayne of Canadian Small Business Women, and to Glenn Williams, our panelist in the studio today, for their thoughtful questions, for their time and energy. And I'm really looking forward to our next session. So please join us for the fourth in 5 debates today on behalf of BizVote 2021, the Brampton Board of Trade's BizVote 2021. We'll be hearing from the candidates in the riding of Brampton South, and that will begin at 1:30. Thank you again, Ruby Sahota, and thank you, viewers. We'll see you again at a Board of Trade event. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.